So a few types of attacks here. The first one we'll look at is called the salami attack. The salami attack steals just a little bit, almost an unnoticeable amount, from many, many different transactions or individuals. If your checking account balance was off by 2 cents every month, would you really care? You'd probably just adjust your checkbook to accommodate the missing 2 cents, and you'd never even take the time to report it. This is the nature of a salami attack. If a bad guy can do that to 1 million people a month, this is a great deal of money over just a short period of time. The next form of attack is called data diddling. This is effectively cooking the books. This is committing fraud and violating the integrity of the information, trying to steal money from the corporation. Dumpster diving is another form of attack. Dumpster diving is where a bad guy simply hops into the dumpster and starts removing content from the dumpster. Very often these are documents or discarded media, things along these lines. Technically, this is not illegal. Once the content is disposed of in a dumpster, it now does not belong to anyone. But it is unethical. The one area where prosecutions are occurring relative to dumpster diving doesn't have anything to do with the theft of this information. It has to do with trespassing. So if the dumpster is on private property and there is appropriate signage that says trespassers will be prosecuted, then you can prosecute the guy for coming onto your property and entering your dumpster. Now, an individual that commits telephone fraud is referred to as a phreaker, spelled with a PH. A phreaker is one that commits telephone fraud. One of the more well-known organizations regarding phreakers is called the 2600 Club. The reason 2600 is this is the frequency, the tone in hertz, that was used to authorize a long-distance telephone call. And a particular phreaker who coined the name Captain Crunch discovered that a toy whistle that was included in a box of Captain Crunch emitted this 2600 hertz tone that authorized long-distance telephone calls. And so a whole underground culture was created based on this 2600 hertz that was the tone to authorize long-distance telephone calls. Now, since that time, there have been more sophisticated approaches to stealing free telephone service. One approach is called the red box. The red box is a device that simulates the sound of coins dropping into a payphone. So someone would pick up the telephone, hit the 0 button to contact the operator, and then ask to make, for example, a person-to-person call. When the operator would request them to, the charge will be $4, they would simply push a button on this tone generator that sounded like enough quarters to pay the toll for the call. Another type of telephone fraud is the blue boxing. Blue boxing actually emits the analog tones, such as the 2600 hertz that we described earlier, to gain free access or free telephone service. And finally, the third one is the black box. A black box actually adjusts the voltage on the telephone to confuse the telephone and eventually authorize the long-distance calls. So we have the red box for coins dropping, the blue box that emits tones to approve the long-distance calls, and then black box that manipulates the line voltage into the telephone and confuses the phone system so that a telephone call becomes authorized. Another form of telephone fraud is actually breaking into the PBX, the private branch exchange. And this is generally done through what's called a hanging modem or a maintenance modem on the PBX. This modem is in place so that the individual that is configuring the PBX system for additional extensions or things along these lines is able to do this remotely. What happens is bad guys dial into that modem, either brute force or dictionary attack the password to authorize their reconfiguration of the PBX system, and then can set themselves up with free long-distance services. So they dial into the PBX system, and then now that they're within the PBX system, they enter the code that allows free long-distance service.